Hi, I'm Dr. George Yancey. Let's share some paradigms. Paradigms I want to share today concerns moral Democrats. Unless you've been under a rock, you've heard of Graham Platner, the almost Democrat candidate for the state of Maine. Unless you've been under a rock, you'll know that he was a, shall we say, controversial figure during his run. What's happened is that he has dropped out of the race because of allegations of possible sexual assault, rape, if you want to go that far. And I think that's warranted. And this has made him drop out due to pressure from the Democrats. What I've heard some Democrats argue is this shows how different we are from Republicans. When our candidate clearly becomes immoral, we force that candidate out. The Republicans elect that candidate. And of course, the best example of Republicans doing this is with our current president, Donald Trump. So, what to make of this? Are the Democrats the moral party, or is this just a political dodge? I want to deal with that. Now, let me just first say that as I assess things, and those of you who follow my videos know that I won't say nonpartisan, probably anti-partisan is a good description. I do not favor the Democrats or Republicans. I may agree with some of them on different issues, left or right, but I'm not in either one of those quarters. In fact, part of my argument is that as Christians, we need to be careful about our partisanship. We often blind ourselves because we're going yay team. So this assessment I'm about to make is not one attempting to put one party above the other. But let me first say that as I look at the landscape, I think the argument is there that the Democrats are more willing to get rid of their immoral candidates than the Republicans. And the reason why this is because of Trump. I even take him out of the equation, it changes. Having said that, and before my more progressive friends start cheering me on, hear me when I say, that's not much of a compliment. It really is not. It's as if you didn't kill the person, you just beat them nearly to death. So you're not as bad as the person that killed the person, but you're pretty darn bad. And that's my honest assessment. The Democrats are still pretty bad. And let's be honest. Whereas some people say we always get rid of our immoral individuals, have they not forgotten about Bill Clinton? Or if that's too long ago for you, Jay Jones, the Virginia Attorney General who joked about his Republican opponents dying and their families. Before the election, Democrats elected him anyways. So before my Democrats friends go see how moral we are, I'm looking at you and say, no, you're not. You're just not at the very scummy bottom. You're maybe half a click, just barely above that. So this is not something for you to brag about. In fact, Platner, if we're really going to be honest, look what it took. He had a Nazi tattoo. That's cool. He engaged in victim blaming of rape victims. We're good with that. He maligned veterans. He maligned whites, maligned African Americans. We'll still elect him. He had an accusation with some collaboration. I'm not saying it's, conviction of court of law, okay? But with at least some collaboration of domestic violence. Still our guy. Finally, an accusation of rape, and now you give up the ship. Look how far it took you before you're willing to throw him overboard. That is not the sign of people who police the morality of their candidates. In this last accusation I come up, I have every reason to believe you have been going with Platner. Now, as we look at this, we have to conclude that the Republicans support immoral candidates, although even there, that's not all the cases. Tony Gonzalez was just tossed out. And Democrats support immoral candidates, but just a little bit, they do just a little bit better job than Republicans. Once again, this is nothing to brag about. Okay, if you enjoy this sort of content, please consider giving me a like. Please tell your friends. Please consider subscribing to this channel. As you can see, I'm someone who is willing to call it as it is, regardless of party or favor. So neither the Democrats or Republicans are in a position to claim high standards. Here's what I really think happens. I think this happens for both of them. That when it comes to winning, they will run with whoever they can. And if standing up to this person means you lose the election, then you don't stand with that person. I believe that Platner was thrown overboard, not just because of this latest accusation, but because, and there's some people who've talked about this, and I believe that to be the case, the polls were starting to show he was not going to beat Susan Collins. By the way, Susan Collins is not some MAGA right-winger. Susan Collins is probably as moderate, as progressive as a Republican's going to get. Yet even here, the need to win was so great for the Democrats. They went with a guy who took a Nazi tattoo, blamed rape victims, denigrated our veterans, had a domestic violence accusation that has some merit to it. Once again, I'm not sure, but it has some collaboration to it. They went all that just to beat a moderate Republican. Because for me, the way I interpret this, for the Republicans and Democrats, winning is more important than having a sound moral leader you can trust. Look at the J. Jones situation. Just look at it. While some politicians condemn the comments, none of them call for J. Jones to drop out of the race. Because at that point, to do that would mean that the Republicans would win an attorney general position. So the Democrats chose to put someone in the attorney general position, attorney general, in charge of the laws, who jokes about the death of his political opponents and their families, rather than dare lose that for a few years to a Republican who could trust. How can you be a Republican in Virginia and feel comfortable being someone who would look out after your rights? If I was a Republican in Virginia, I would not feel that way, justifiably so. So saying that they're better than Republicans is not a high compliment. It's just saying that Republicans are just worse. And the reason why they're worse is because of Trump. In a couple of years, when he's no longer president, I may make a different assessment. But that's where I'm at. What we need is for both Democrats and Republicans to be honest about their failings to confront the immorality in their own ranks, the unethical politicians in their own ranks, and desire a clean slate on their side. They can't control the other side. They can moan about it, but they can't control. If you're a Democrat, you can't control what the Republicans do, and vice versa. You can't control what happens on your side, and you are responsible for what happens on your side. And if we did that, then overall we would have more reputable politicians, less corruption, less polarization, because some of the ugliness that comes out of some of this vitriol from some of those who may just look at what J. Jones comments, Trump's comments. We have a better political economy, and we have a more trustworthy way of getting done what we need as a government, what we need to get done. Well, I hope this was useful to you, provide some insight, something to think about, something to talk about. If it does, please come back. We can share some more paradigms.